Great news coming out of Florida. I was just in Florida for Easter, for Day of Visibility, and Ron DeSantis just won a major victory. You remember maybe 2 years ago at this point, DeSantis picks a fight with Disney. Actually, that's not fair. Disney picks a fight with Ron DeSantis because DeSantis has a socially conservative agenda. Disney decides they're going to throw their weight around in the state of Florida because they're a big player down there. And DeSantis says, no, we're not going to let you do that. And if you try to undermine the will of voters, we're actually going to take away all the special little protections that you've had for a long time. One of which was the Reedy Creek settlement district. It was this special tax district where Disney basically got to govern itself outside the constraints of the state of Florida. So DeSantis comes in and says, yeah, we're taking that away from you, Disney. You want to start throwing your weight around and undermining the will of voters, you unaccountable lib woke corporation? Well, we're going to take your special tax benefits and your special self-government benefits and see what happens then. And of course, Disney sued, and they've been fighting this out in court for quite a while. Well, this kind of quietly passed over the past few days, barely made the headlines. Disney dropped the lawsuit. The governor's comms director, Brian Griffin, says, we are glad that Disney has dropped its lawsuits against the new Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which is what replaced Disney's Reedy Creek District, and conceded that their last-minute development agreements are null, void, and unenforceable. No corporation should be its own government. Moving forward, we stand ready to work with Disney and the district to help promote economic growth, family-friendly tourism, and accountable government in Central Florida. Love it. It also said, so Disney was trying to attack Ron DeSantis 50 different ways, 50 different angles. And one angle was a federal complaint against him. The settlement also said that Disney might drop that complaint, quote, pending negotiations among other matters of a new development agreement between Disney and the district. So for now, at least, DeSantis won, Republicans won. And it's instructive because we've been told by some of the squishier Republicans in recent years that we can never win cultural battles by using the government. You know, we've been told that politics is totally downstream of the culture. Well, no, here it would be the culture downstream of politics, of the government, and it worked. We've been told that conservatives should never wield the government and use power that we've been given by the people, because then, hypothetically, the libs might do that when they get power, even though they already have the power and they're already doing it. Well, I think this would be a good example. DeSantis came in, he wielded that government power, and it worked. And now we don't have a million other left-wing governors trying to do the same thing as a mirror image. And in part, we don't have that because it's already happened. The libs have already wielded that political power for their advantage. Now we're just trying it out ourselves. How does this work? Except the difference is the libs wield the political power in a way that is unjust and immoral, and Ron DeSantis here is wielding it in a way that is just and moral. They're saying, hey, stop pushing the weird sex stuff on the kids. Biggest kids company in the world. Hey, cut it out, or if you don't cut it out, we're going to take away your special tax benefits. And Disney called DeSantis's bluff. DeSantis called Disney's calling of his bluff, and Disney backed down. They played a game of chicken, and DeSantis won. Great. I think every Republican governor around the country should emulate this. It didn't even take all that long. What did it take? A couple of years? All right, I guess that's a long time in politics, but a couple of years. You can do that in one term. Great, great stuff. Now, the rot runs a lot deeper than Disney, I'm sorry to report. Billboard Chris. Do you know Billboard Chris? Billboard Chris, a great activist I don't even want to say he's an anti-ideology activist. He is a pro-reality activist, and he walks around and he's just got a billboard. He says things like, boys aren't girls and men can't become women and that kind of thing. Well, Billboard Chris has just aroused the ire of the Australian government and, as a consequence, big tech platforms around the world. Billboard Chris tweeted out. I meant to get to this on Friday, but I really don't want to miss it because it's very important, and also because I called this 15 months ago. I hate to say I told you so. Billboard Chris says, the Australian government has ordered my tweet below to be taken down. X, formerly known as Twitter, can face a fine of up to $782,500 Australian if they do not comply. What was the tweet? The tweet was over misgendering. If you call a man he, and the man thinks he's a woman, or if you call a woman she and she thinks that she's a man, then you're guilty of misgendering. This was a policy that was in place at Twitter, where Twitter would censor you if you, quote unquote, misgendered, that is to say, correctly gendered someone. Then Elon took over. He got rid of the ridiculous misgendering policy. But the powers that be didn't like that. So the liberal political order actually did a runaround through the government, but even beyond the government, around the big tech platforms, to get people like Elon Musk and Billboard Chris to take a knee. What this comes down to is something that I mentioned 15 months ago. Safety by design. The Global Alliance for Responsible Media, the World Economic Forum, the Australian government. I posted a long Twitter thread that Elon actually responded to last January, in which I said, hey guys, this is all great news that Elon is going to give us free speech back on Twitter. And by free speech, we just mean there are still going to be standards. There are still going to be things that are outside the bounds. But Elon's just going to restore the normal standards, not the crazy radical leftist standards. And I said, this is all great news, but the libs aren't going to lie down easy here. And here's just one example. This woman, Julie Inman Grant, who was the Australian e-safety commissioner. She previously had worked at some other big tech platforms, and she was too pro-censorship. She was too leftist, even for them. So she got booted out of them. She finds her way, I think she's American, but she found her way into the Australian government. And she starts working on this project, Safety by Design. And as usual, the libs begin with a real problem, and then they really just use that problem and the solution to that problem as a Trojan horse to fix all the other non-problems that they want to fix. So she comes in, she says, there's this problem. There's like child pornography and stuff like that on these big tech platforms. So what we need to do, we're not going to be able to constantly respond from the perspective of the technology to all the ever-changing laws that might pop up in a region or a country, even a continent. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to build in the speech standards into the coding of the tech platforms themselves. And who's we, you might ask? Is it going to be Elon Musk? Is it going to be Mark Zuckerberg? No, it's going to be we in the Australian e-safety commissioner's office. It's going to be we in the World Economic Forum. It's going to be we in this new thing, GARM, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. And we're going to use international institutions like the World Economic Forum to impose it, to get governments on board, to get the big tech platforms. And the reason they're going to do it is if I, as the head of e-safety in Australia, say we're going to shut down, it's not just going to be child pornography. It's barely going to even involve really illegal, heinous things like child pornography. It's going to involve misgendering. It's going to involve COVID vaccine misinformation, also known as true information back during the COVID days. It's going to involve climate change denial. It's going to involve all these left-wing hobby horses and speech codes. And rather, Twitter's not going to be able to adjust its service to every single country, every single state. So we're just going to form this thing, this blob multinational institution, and it's going to be run by radical leftists, and it's going to have so much power and so much buy-in that people like Elon Musk are going to be pretty much impotent to stop it. I really hate to say I told you so, but sometimes, I'm not saying I use this term, I'm just saying sometimes people have suggested that I'm a little bit like Nostradamus and I can predict the future. In this case, it doesn't take a Nostradamus. It doesn't take a crystal ball to know this is what they were going to do. This is what they told us they were going to do. Now it is being implemented. And even the wealthiest man in the world, the most powerful guy in the private sector, doesn't seem able to stop it. Man, that was a great clip, huh? It was. Of course it was. Ring that bell. Subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel, and we will see you next time.